Nice that I got a chair. I was hoping for a recliner, but what is what it is. Hey, Chris, I think I'm just going to use the Bible verses. So all the other things in between, don't worry about that. Well, I had a pretty eventful week, to say the least. I want to share a little bit about it. And I went back and forth on this because, you don't want to share just an experience. We all have those experiences. But I want to share because, it is clear as day the hand of God through this whole situation. And so more importantly than anything else, I just wanted to honor him with sharing how his hand was moving throughout this whole situation. We've been talking about oikos and how God calls us to change our world, those that are an extended family. And so we're going through that as a church and how we're supposed to understand our oikos, know our oikos, our extended family. Our oikos is your friends, your families, your co-workers, your neighbors, people that you see at their grocery store, some people that you have some type of influence with. They know you. And those are the people that God strategically places within your world. Well, kind of going through all this, I also have learned that your oikos can change, and your world can change, and the people that come into your world can change. I think most of y'all know what transpired over the week. Had a little situation, nothing big, but I do want to share the story. Most of y'all, so what happened? If I was you, I'd say the same thing. So what happened? A couple weeks ago, I started having a little bit of twinges in my chest, just a little bit, nothing major. I thought, well, I'll probably put on, I know I put on about 8 to 10 pounds. I've made jokes through the months about it, and I haven't been eating well, and so I thought it was my body telling me, look, you need to eat a little bit better. And other than that, it was no big deal. It wasn't anything to be really alarmed that I thought. And but even further than that, Pam got a new job. And because of her job, she's only allowed to take vacations in between election seasons. So we usually like to go, in early spring and then sometime in November, Thanksgiving time. Because of the election season, we had to bump it up to in September. And, again, that's life. Has nothing to do with God, has nothing to do with anything like that. It's life, and we change with life. And so we decided to go to Denver. And what's that? For the beat. Yeah, for the beat down. So, and it was a beat down. Sorry. Yeah, thanks, Corey, Denver fan. A lot of people said, so everything that happened, you're going to change teams? Absolutely not. It's biblical. The wise men follow the star. So that's what it is what it is. You got to stay biblical. So we go, and as soon as we get there, there's just a little difference, and I don't tell Pam because that's what husbands do. We don't say anything. And, the day after, a little bit worse, and then I guess it was Monday, we go to see Red Rocks. It's a beautiful amphitheater, beautiful red rocks all around, and it's quite a hike down and just on the stairs. And so we're just kind of walking around, and again, it's not that big of a deal. And we get to the bottom, and Pam's like, I don't want to walk all the way up the stairs. I'm going to walk to the bottom, and then you can come and pick me up. So it's really all her fault. So I'm like, okay, no problem. And then I started walking up the stairs, and what should have taken me about 3 or 4 minutes took about 15 to 20 minutes. So I'd take a step or two going up the stairs, and I'd just stop. I'm like, man. And it was just my heart just kind of, it was a pain, but the interesting thing is it subsided as soon as I stopped. So as soon as my heart rate went down, the pain went down. So I thought, it's just the altitude. We're way up here now. I got to watch my eating. And so I worked my way on up, picked Pam up, and, we had found out that two of our closest friends, they've been here before, were traveling to Denver. So Pam posted some pictures of Red Rock, and they see it, and they said, "Where are you at?" And Pam said, "We're in Denver." And Jimmy and Denise said, "Well, we're getting ready to get on a flight to Denver, and you need to come visit us. We're going to be in Vail." So we'd never really had any intention to go to Vail. And so we're like, well, that's cool. So, all of a sudden, we're going to see two of our closest friends. We're going to drive out to Vail, Colorado, of all places. And so, we go to Red Rocks, and, we're on our way to Vail. And I told Pam, I said, "You need to stop. This is this beautiful, beautiful picture of a lake." Where was it? At Breckenridge. And so we stop, and I get out, and by this time, Pam knows that, I told her, I said, "I'm just not feeling real well." So she's driving, so I get out, and I literally, by the time I get out of the car and take about 2 steps, it's pulsating pretty bad. And so, again, I didn't think it was anything. I never in my wildest dreams, I didn't even really believe it was a heart attack until it was all over. I said, this is just something minor, it's just altitude. And so I take, this picture, and I kind of stumble back into the chair, into the car. And so we get back in the car, and by this time we get to Vail, and our friends are there, and his daughter and son-in-law is there, and their parents are there. So they're waiting on us. And so it was like, okay, let's go to dinner. And so there was a restaurant right there in the hotel area. And so we walk to the restaurant, which should take about 3 minutes. And literally, by this time, I knew something was wrong, because it took everything I had just to walk to that restaurant for that 3 minutes. As a matter of fact, there was like a little fire outside that Amy, they were doing s'mores. So I'm like, I'm gonna do a s'more with the kids, but just trying to catch my breath a little bit, and the pain would subside. So we finally went to the restaurant. I think I got 2 deviled eggs. I just wasn't hungry, and fought my way back to our room. And I told Pam, I said, I'm going to go rest, because every time I would just rest, my heart rate, it would just go away. I'm going to rest, I'm going to sleep it off, and I know it's just going to be one of those moments until we can go back home. And so I lie down, and it was not going away. It subsided a little bit, but it's still there, and it was letting me know. And I noticed, even when I just turned over, I turned from my left to my right, it would just flare. And so finally the wisdom kicked in, and after praying, I'm like, Lord, this isn't right. Just not really sure what's going on, but I'm going to go ahead, because the last thing I wanted to do, Pam was outside, she's in the room, in the living room area, talking with all her friends, and I could hear them having a good time. And this whole time I just was not telling her. As a matter of fact, on the way back, we stopped at that fire again. They were doing s'mores, and I grabbed some chocolate. And I was like, hey, if I eat this chocolate, this is sugar. This will give me just enough sugar to get me back to the room. Because Pam's like, what is chocolate doing in your pocket? Later on, I told her my plan. Us guys, I tell you, man, we'll take it, we'll go crazy. So I didn't want to interrupt her fun, and we hadn't seen him in a while, but it just got to a point where I needed to go. And so, immediately Pam was up and was getting the car, and I actually got in the car, and when I sat upright, it kind of went away. And I actually again said, I actually think I'm okay. I'm feeling a lot better. We can just go ahead and turn around. By that time, there was no turn around. Pam just gave me that look, and guys, you know that look. So I just kind of didn't say anything. I saw that look, and that was it. So it was her and Denise this time, and I both got that look. And so we went in, and I knew Pam was starting to get a little anxious and worried, and so I'm so crazy sometimes. We get there, and I said, I'm okay, but maybe this is the big one. And I start doing like Sanford Son. This is the big one. And I did this. I'm like, this is the big one. And I'm coming. I said a little bit, because it's not Elizabeth, it's a little bit. I'm coming a little bit. I'm coming home. And I do the walk, and she just looked at me. He's like, you're not funny. Yeah. But I was just trying to make light of this, because I really did not believe it was anything. I thought it was high blood pressure and altitude, and that's it. Because we had actually, Pam said, yeah, he's kind of not feeling well. And some of the people that go to Vail all the time, that's whose condo we were staying at, they said, oh yeah, it's called altitude sickness. People get it all the time. And so I thought that's just what it was with high blood pressure. And so we got there, and they asked me a couple questions, and the answers I gave them immediately, they jumped on it. And next thing you know, they shot me back, and I'm getting all these things all over my chest. And still just didn't think much. I was like, just standard procedure. And Pam was filling out forms, and when she came in, her and Denise walked in, and I saw the gloss in her eye. And Pam's tough. She's never. But I saw that little bit of gloss and realized, man, this is a little serious. This is nothing. We've never dealt with anything like this before. But again, I thought it was no big deal. The doctor said, look, we're seeing some things that we don't like. We want to send you by ambulance to the hospital. And again, I'm like, come on. Just didn't. It's that guy thing. And Pam gave me that look. The doctor gave me that look. And I said, okay, let's just go. And things kind of, from that point on, I got there about 12:30 that night. And my heart rate was spiking, blood pressure spiking. The pain was coming and going. And by the way, when I got to that healthcare place at first, they gave me this great pill. I mean, it was great. They said, stick it under my tongue. And in 3-4 seconds, man, that pain just was gone. And I was like, man, that's some good stuff. But that's really when I realized, because I didn't realize how heavy that pain was. And it was like a balloon that just went pshh. And that's when I started realizing, well, maybe there's a little bit to this. But as you all know me, I'm an optimist. I mean, I always look for the good. It's not a big deal. And so that was always, throughout this whole thing, was my thought. And so once we get there, it progressed. And who was that lady that got the ball rolling? Nurse practitioner came in, talked to me for a few minutes, came in about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and man, she just did some tests, and boom, things just happened. And at that time, my heart was really beginning to hurt. And I'd already had those 2 magic pills, and realized that I was getting ready to go into surgery. Again, they didn't tell me what was going on. And I remember, while I was in surgery, kind of half in, half out, I did feel them go into my leg and kind of go up into my hip. And they told me, they said the whole standard thing, hey, look, people die of stroke, heart attack, and so you got to fill out all these forms. And, I'm looking at Pam, and, I see the tension in her face. But, again, I'm like, hey, if it's this, then let's go ahead and get it done. Because they didn't say it this time. They just said it could be. And if it's something like that, a blockage, then we'll go ahead and fix it. And there was one moment that the whole time I really never had any fear, nothing like that. And this is one of the things I want to share as well. You may ask, how many Bible verses went through your mind? How often did the scriptures, come to light? I'm going to be perfectly honest. 0. However, God was always on my mind. And it wasn't a specific verse that I clung to. It was the presence of God. And while all this was going on, and it started getting a little real, I was praying, and all of a sudden a warm blanket came over me, because I was like, Lord, things are so good right now. And the church is just an exciting place to be. All the things that are going on. I see the church just being molded in God's image, and the love that we have for people. And, we're starting, Oikos, and I think it's going to be great. And, watching Alvin, how the church rallied around you and loved you. And many of us have that story. And let me look at that card real quick, Pam. There's a card that we got from the family that was with us 2 weeks ago. And I know I'm all over the place. Just bear with me. I just wanted to share from the heart. But that one just came on me. I think I'm going to be a comedian. But these are the things that was going through my mind. It wasn't, because you have those moments where like, okay, if this is it. And again, was I ever fearful? No. Was I ready for heaven? If that's what God wanted, great. But, I didn't think about, hey, I never got to see Hawaii. Hey, I want to do this. Hey, grandbabies. You know what I thought about? It's 2 things. Number 1, this was the big one, was leaving Pam this way. The biggest one was the story of Joe and Pam, is coming to an end. And that statement allowed me to say, no, God is faithful. If he takes me, amen. But I just don't see it. And God was giving me courage, because during that surgery they said, listen, this is going to be dangerous. We can't give you any medicine for your heart, for your pain. And they were somewhat honest with me. And I felt, they said, just let us know the pain. And I said, okay. So during the surgery, it was 2, 4, 6. And then, I told him right at the end, it was like, it's an 8. And it was about just to explode. And so it was those moments that things just, it was the sadness of Joe and Pam's story to be over. It was the sadness of not experiencing all that I believe that God has for the church. It was the sadness of friends that are growing to be family. And I thought about all y'all. I really did. It wasn't all the great places we want to go and visit. It was about when it all came down to it. It was about friends and families and loved ones and the mission that God had for us. And again, I'm like, we're just getting started. That's why I was praying. I'm like, God, we're just getting started. We're just getting started. You are changing our church, this community. Our community is our oikos. We're learning and we're growing in that. And, again, it was just like a warm blanket. It's like, you're right. Just hold on to me. Trust me. And, again, going back to, who we are as a church. So 2 weeks ago, we had a couple come to our house from Florida during the hurricane season. We really didn't even know what they were coming. We just saw that they were going to come and stay at our pool house. When we met them, we realized who they were as a young couple. And we said, look, just come. He was worried about, I don't know how long we're going to be here. I said, I don't care. They were new young believers, whether believers or not, it didn't matter. Like, you come, this is home for 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months. I said, we're going to be here for you. And we developed a real strong relationship. And y'all know the two, and the young girl really made an impression here. And they came to church, and she came to church on Wednesday, the young girl. And many of y'all reached out to them and blessed them with a lot of nice things. And we had a couple here babysit, because they had a little baby as well. They babysit so they can actually just go out together and enjoy each other. And so all these things, people were so nice to them. And they left a letter because they were still there when we left. We're like, hey, is it okay if we stay even though you're going to be gone? I'm like, my house is your house. And that's how I felt. And I know that's the heartbeat of the church. And so we got back yesterday, and we saw this on the table. And it says, thank you for welcoming us, showing us love, support. We're so grateful for each of y'all. By the way, this isn't for us. This was to the church. This is to the church. Thank you for welcoming us and showing us love and support. We're so grateful for each of you. It warmed our hearts to see such selfless people reach out and show God's love. We look forward to coming back again, this time no hurricanes. I believe because of the prayers from our new church family, our town and our home was saved. And then David said, and that was from Tara, all our love to our new church family, Tara. And David said, thank you for everything, for the testimony that you showed us will never be forgotten. And thank you for being part of our oikos. And the title of it is To Our New Extended Church Family, Our Oikos. You know, he's since contacted me and believes that God is calling him into the ministry. And he's asked for mentorship. And we've actually talked a few times already. And I don't know how he found out about what was going on with us, but they found out. And all this, and after the surgery, and it was probably quite a bit after the surgery, because I had to lie down on my back that was probably the worst part, lying down on your back for 6 hours and can't move. Whew, that was tough. But after most of that time, and I started feeling a bit better, I talked to Joseph, and he's like, have you been seeing all the things that are being said and written and phone calls? And I said, no, not yet. So I just started reading, and, come to find out there were prayer chains. Somebody from the church called my mom, prayed for her. My son, it's hard on him. And many of y'all reached out to Pam. Many. And I know many contacted me after because they didn't want to bombard. But I know that our church was in prayer for me. But I also know it's not just for me. But that's who we are as a church. If it was you, we saw it with Alvin. It's who we are. I got home and there was dinner ready for us. I'm like, what? What? Dinner here? All I got to do is put it in the oven. I'm like, sweet. Because Lord knows I didn't feel like cooking after going through the airport and all that stuff. But, and I come in and, all of this warmth. And it goes back to, it wasn't the things that I wasn't able to do. It was the people that I'm going to miss. It was the friends and the family. And this great movement that is being created in here. I want you to know that. I want you to know that. There's a great movement going on in our church. And I've been seeing it. I've been feeling it. Sometimes you don't get to see it, but I get to hear from people and just kind of see their eyes. And there's a statement that I want to read to you that really kept on going over and over and over again. This is for you. It was for me. God told me personally, he said, it's not what you know, but what you truly believe. What you truly believe. And at that time, I had preached this statement. You can put this one on. It's Philippians 4:4-6. And I have preached this statement. This is a verse that has absolutely changed my life. It says, don't be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your heart and your minds in Christ Jesus. Now, did God give me that verse while I was there? Nope, not one. But was that verse being activated to the depths of my soul during that whole? Yes. It was constantly, Joe, rely on God. Joe, it's not what you know, it's what you believe. And I have preached this so many times, but I leaned on this without even knowing the verse, without even going to the verse. And so there was a famous hockey game back a long, long time ago between the U.S. and the Russians. And the announcer, after U.S. beat the Russians, who at that time was just invincible, he said, do you believe in miracles? And he said, yes, because the USA beat the Russians. And if you ask me, do I believe in miracles? I say yes. And you do too. Because there's miracles going on all around us. But every once in a while, God will allow us to see one. I was allowed to be one. And it reminds me again, it's not what we know, but what we truly believe when it matters the most. So I'll look at who we are as a church right now and the things that are going on. From a few weeks ago, we have 2-3 inches of water all over this place. And how God is galvanizing us together. How things are going on with so-called cancer. That's not cancer, Alvin. It's not cancer. And it's galvanizing us together. And how I've been preaching on personal revival, knowing that I'm moving to oikos, which is, understanding and knowing how God wants us to be a witness to our worlds, not just the world, but our worlds, and to our community. I was a little nervous because I want, are we going to take hold of that? Is this going to be real? We're going to take hold of it and really change our community, really change our world. And that first sermon 2 weeks ago, I could feel it, that the church was just consuming it. And man, that Sunday, Tony, I was excited. Tony was excited. Tony's always excited, but he was excited. He's like, God's doing something. This was great. And people were talking, and it was funny because I was leaving the following week. I'm like, God, why do I have to leave the following week? Because I want to be here. It's the second part of this season. And God was preparing to save my life. I didn't even know it. I was joking with Pam. I said, I should name this sermon, How God Sends You to Colorado to Save Your Life. But now going back to that, and again, thanks, because I know I'm all over the place, but sometimes you just don't want to miss. I just want to, basically this is just a thank you to God. So this whole thing changed with Pam's job. And then of all the places, we go to Denver. And I really don't want to go to Denver to that game because I knew we were in trouble. But I was like, it's all about the experience, really not about the game. So we go there, and then we meet up with our friends. That causes us to go to Vail, that absolutely just takes my heart and goes crazy nutso with it. And they actually have a condo where there's 3 families, and this big condo which it just happened to be at, where was it at? Ritz-Carlton. Like, yeah, Lord. I don't even know, but man, that was nice. Actually, when we drove up there was people that said, hey, let me open the door for you. Didn't even have to get my car. That's usually not the case. But if that's got to happen, at least it was a nice place. And it just so happened that they had 4 bedrooms and 3 couples. Just so happened that, it happened to be Pam's best friend. So during this whole thing, Denise was there, basically holding her hand through this whole situation. It just so happened that day we were supposed to go up, see him, and then leave. Well, they were just coming up. Just so happened that I wasn't able to leave until Saturday. Just so happened that they weren't leaving until Saturday. So they had a place. The interesting thing is I actually had a friend in Denver that I forgot was there. And we were going to travel back that Friday because we left early Saturday morning. And it just so happened that, we talked, and I was going to stay with him, and he's like, actually, just going to order you a room. And he tried to pay for a room right next to the airport. And, I'm like, no, I'm not going to accept that, but thanks anyways. But again, it was that detail that God just orchestrated everything. And again, the doctor told me, he said, I want you to know something. You went to a natural stress test. To a natural stress test. When you come up here, your heart is stressed. And it just so happened that what I had done to me, they do it all the time. And so this was a great facility to have this done in. And, over and over and over again, I'm just, when I had that opportunity to sit back and ask, just really just think and pray through this. And God just beginning to reveal, hey, you think that Pam's job had it? No. I was orchestrating this from before you even knew what was going on. Because, come to find out, I have a disease. I have a heart disease. And this is what happens to people like me. They don't make it, out of their 40s. But because I went to this natural stress test, it showed that I had a problem. And I went to a great place that helped me. And I had people that was actually there to help us. And I was able to go and get some rest. So I had a great place just to rest. And so I just want to say thank the Lord for His provision, His grace, His mercy. And He said, I'm not done with you yet. I'm not done with you yet. And so now more than ever, I'm ready to go. It may take a couple more weeks. I did have a scare Friday because I thought, I'm back better than ever. I made that statement like Zorro. I'm back better than ever, Pam. That next day, after walking too much, my heart was like, no, you're not. Relax. So we're going to relax a little bit. But I am excited for the future that I now have. And I understand. I understand. Well, you don't have to stand for me. Stand for the Lord. But I understand. You'll know this statement. I've said it. We've got one life to live. Let's give it to the Lord. I've made that statement. I now know that and believe it with all my heart. Did it again. With all my heart. So, the Lord works in mysterious ways. And one last thing. I promise. I know I say that all the time. Remember a couple weeks ago, I told you that there was just a heaviness. Remember that? Man, little did I know. It got real heavy down there. But I just kind of, I thought, and I said, I can't put my finger on it. It's, everything's going great. Pam's not being mean to me. Church isn't being mean to me. Everything's, I thought, spiritual, and, I'm sure they're spiritual, but there was some physical. And, the doctor basically said, if you didn't come down, and have the stress test, you probably wouldn't have made it home. That's how bad it got. It got to a point where, afterwards he said it was 99%. I could tell it was like 99 3/4. And he said, probably something would have happened on the plane. So, the interesting thing is, and keep praying for us. We got on the plane. She gets that nitro tab and she's clinging to it on the plane. They said, just watch it, be careful. So we couldn't go until Friday and couldn't get a plane until Saturday. She was clinging to it and she'd say, how are you doing okay? You doing okay? I'm like, I'm doing great. Fine. And all of a sudden she looks at me and says, I'm nauseous. And then she just starts doing this. And then I'm like, you okay, Pam? And next thing you know, she's like this. I mean, she's just convulsing. And I'm like, and I grab her and smack her around a little bit. Gently. Snap her out of it. And she's kind of going through some things right now, too. We had to call, Misty was driving. It's like, hey, can you come by real quick? And took her pulse, and it's probably just stress and all the stuff going on. But I was always optimistic. I had a moment or two, but it also reminded me during that 30 minutes on that plane. And by the way, there was a Christian right next to us on the plane, and I'm trying to stay calm, and I'm breathing. The doctor said, breathe, breathe. And then this was going on with Pam. I'm like, and it just so happened that there was a Christian right next to her that kept her talking. And we talked about church. We talked about his family. We talked about our family. We talked about what happened to me. And I'm looking at my watch and I'm like, oh my God. Pam's like, are we almost there? I'm like, yep, we're almost there. We're almost there. I'm like, oh my gosh, we've got another hour and 45 minutes to go. But we're almost there. But with us talking, keeping her talking, it went by. I look back and I'm like, was that an angel? Was that an angel? It's crazy how good God